Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today on Around Kansas, our first item is about Topeka writer Evie Green, who recently had a story included in the latest Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Next, did you know the first fast food hamburger chain in the world was started right here in Kansas? Yep, White Castle. Then it's a poem from Ron Wilson, and we'll end with a story about a plane crash in Osborne County during World War II. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road. Good morning. It's early in the morning. I'm Frank.
I'm Deb.
And this is Around Kansas. And gosh, we're into May.
So did you get the May basket?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So anyway.
And it was full of candy?
Uh-huh.
And you ate it all?
Uh-huh. So,
actually, I forgot to send you one. I was so terrible.
In case you wonder what we're talking about.
If they have been watching at all, they know exactly what we're talking about.
Making May baskets and taking them around to your friends. And she made me a May basket.
It's a pathetic custom, but anyway, it's probably a good thing it died out.
Well, and the thing is and all of this time, I should probably Google it and find out where that tradition started.
Started with pathetic people with no imaginations who made May baskets. That's where it started. Like back in the hills. I don't know, but back in the where's the Chaffins? Where's the Chaffins from? The Irish or whatever that.
Well, from
probably
Normandy to England to Ireland, yeah.
No telling what the Chaffins put in their May baskets. It was probably a bottle of whiskey or something.
Well, because see, I grew up in Newton, Kansas, and of course there are a lot of Russian and German descendant people in this area. So my guess is it's probably German. I don't know, but I will Google it and I will report back.
I think there was still some alcohol involved, whoever created it. Well, you can tell my voice is, I don't know if I'm going to last, which is going to make Frank happy if my voice gives out here.
You not being able to talk?
I know. Yeah, really. So I've had this bad case of bronchitis and laryngitis and everything, and it's just been hard to kick. So, no, I'm not contagious. It's just... Good. And I had the round of antibiotics. I had the round of steroids. Me and Arnold, pump you up. Yeah, so steroids are good. I always think of them as like eating plastic or something. But Jake had to sit down and explain to me what they really are. So they helped. They helped. Except I could use some throat spray right now.
Apple cider vinegar.
That's and speaking of whiskey, back home the cure was, just white lightning for everything. Whatever ails you, a little white lightning would fix it. And it generally did, because no germ could live in those conditions. It would kill everything. But
I was going to say, you grew up in the hill country. So.
I did.
So folk medicine was it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to the folk medicine. We should do a story on that sometime.
We should. My daughter is always teasing me about having my granny doctoring degree. Here, try this. Here, take this. Whatever.
So anyway, we do have some stories today.
We got some great stories.
Yes, we do.
It's going to be an awesome show.
Yes, we do.
Stay with us.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com. Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego is driven by the spirit of American ingenuity. Come in for a new Chevrolet car, truck, or SUV. If we don't have exactly what you want, we'll find it for you. And we also have a great selection of used cars. We make sure you have an easy, fun, and transparent sales experience that saves you time and money. But if you want high-pressure salesmen and hours spent in the finance office, you'll just have to go elsewhere. Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're making car buying great again.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. And we're back. So
our friend Evie Green has a selection in the new Chicken Soup for the Soul book.
Oh, really?
So not the recipe book, for Chicken Soup for the Soul. Is that cool or what?
Yeah.
And you know Evie from way back. You were just saying you guys were on board together?
Yes. Yeah, she's, I think she's been on about every board in the area. But yeah, we served together on the Topeka Youth Project board. So I came on, she was already there. So.
She's just an amazing person. I think I've known Evie as long as I've lived in Topeka. And she's just this little bitty ball of energy, you know, just an amazing woman. And I was just so thrilled to see that she had, one of her pieces had been selected for this. So.
But she has another Chicken Soup book.
Her story has been published in a Chicken Soup book.
Okay.
Watch and learn, Frank.
From more than 3,000 submissions, a story by Topekan Evie Green has been included in the recently released Chicken Soup for the Soul, Inspiration for Teachers. The story, Nature's Classroom, was inspired by Evie's experiences as a teacher in the outdoor environmental program in Topeka's 501 schools. The now familiar Chicken Soup series began in 1993 with a simple idea, according to their website. People could help each other by sharing stories about their lives. For years, people had told our founders, motivational speakers Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, inspiring stories about themselves. Jack and Mark included these stories in their talks, and their audiences repeatedly asked if they had ever been published. That story about the boy and the puppy, is that in a book anywhere? Parents asked Jack. That story about the boy with the amputated leg who became a tennis star, I need to read that to my staff, a manager told him. Jack was asked repeatedly, is that story in a book anywhere? Eventually, Jack and Mark decided their audiences must be onto something, so they compiled the best 101 stories they'd been told in a book. They called it Chicken Soup for the Soul because they wanted it to soothe and provide comfort, just like their grandmother's cooking. Chicken Soup for the Soul turned into one of the most popular and loved books ever, selling 11 million copies around the world. Today, they have published more than 250 books, becoming the best-selling trade paperback book series of all time. Retired after 37 years of teaching, Evie began writing in 2001 after her neighbor dragged her to a writers group. "But I don't write," she protested. "Nonsense," said her neighbor. "Everybody writes." 16 years later, she still attends the same writers group each week at the Topeka Shawnee County Public Library. She has won more than 30 awards from the Kansas Authors Club. When asked if it was okay to share her age, Evie did not hesitate. She is 85 years old and believes that the company of creative people have helped keep her mind active and her own soul fed. Kudos, Evie.
There's a lot of different ways of doing this woodwork, but I could not make a knife without both hands, especially without this thumb. And my thumb was so sore that I couldn't even touch it, and they wanted to fuse it, and I said no, cut it off, because I didn't want it sticking up. And I found out about the Kansas regenerative stem cell and went to Manhattan and had that taken care of in my thumb, and now I'm able to go again.
Fort Wallace stood on the frontier in the midst of the Plains Indians Wars on a major stage route and rail line. Beside the 1865 stagecoach station, a modern museum with thousands of artifacts tell that story, like the fossil of a 40-foot plesiosaur is suspended from the ceiling. Located on Highway 40 midway between Hayes and Colorado Springs, the Fort Wallace Museum is as welcome a sight today as the fort itself in the 1860s. Discover the fightingest fort in the West. This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. And here we are again. Aren't you thrilled? So,
continuing with our food theme for the day, the chicken soup. The next one is the White Castle. You know who was the biggest fan of White Castle burgers ever?
Who's that?
Was Radio Rich.
Oh, really?
And he was always talking about when he'd leave town and visit, was it St. Louis? He would get a sack of White Castle.
Sack of White Castle, yeah. Well, back in the late 50s, 60s, Kansas seemed to be kind of the testing ground, truly, for fast food. I mean, Pizza Hut started here.
Yep.
Dick Hasser had one of the first Pizza Huts, and it was in Topeka over on 21st Street.
Right.
And, of course, Lacey's McDonald's. He had the McDonald's franchises around. But also, what people really don't know, and that's why I kind of wanted to do this story, is White Castle actually started in Wichita.
I had no idea.
Yes.
No idea.
And also, somebody that had worked for White Castle at one time named Jimmy Knight had a little restaurant on 10th Street. If you're from Topeka, you know where Bobo's is. We'll go east a little bit. And Jimmy Knight had Jimmy Knight's restaurant there. And really what it was, it was, I don't know, 8 or 10 stools. And he had essentially White Castles in there. You could buy a dozen for $1. They were fun.
Days.
But anyway, but White Castles, so this is a cool story. This is a Kansas profile originally done by Ron Wilson, director of the Huck Boyd National Institute for Rural Development at Kansas State University. So the question is, what was the first fast food hamburger chain in the world, and where did it begin? You are correct if you answered White Castle in Wichita. This innovative company was begun by a man from rural Kansas. It's today's Kansas profile. Walter Anderson was born in 1880. He became a short-order cook. In 1916, he opened his first diner in a converted streetcar in downtown Wichita. Walt Anderson liked to experiment in the kitchen. According to legend, one day he became so frustrated with how his meatballs were sticking to the griddle that he smashed one with a spatula. With that, the flat patty was born. Anderson found that starting with a mound of fresh beef, pressing it into a flat square, and poking 5 well-placed holes in the meat meant that he could cook the burger thoroughly without having to flip it. He also found that cooking the patty on a bed of chopped onions on the grill with the bun on top permitted all of the flavors to permeate the bun. His hamburgers were so popular that he wanted to expand to additional locations. He enlisted the help of a real estate agent named Billy Ingram. As the men got acquainted, they decided to go into business together on a hamburger restaurant. But there was a problem. In 1906, Upton Sinclair had published a book called The Jungle, which exposed the unsanitary meat processing methods of the time. This book caused consumers to worry about the safety of hamburger. Anderson and Ingram decided on an approach to food safety, which was way ahead of its time. They insisted on absolute cleanliness and transparency. They wanted to make their restaurant sparkling clean and white. They equipped the restaurant with white porcelain enamel on steel exteriors, stainless steel interiors, and employees outfitted with spotless uniforms. The kitchen was also viewable by the public, so it would be clear that the food was prepared under highly sanitary conditions. For a name, they combined two words that suggested purity and solidity: White Castle. For the shape of the building, the two men were inspired by the castle-like look of the water tower in downtown Chicago, so they used similar design features for their restaurant. In 1921, they built their first building on the northwest corner of First and Main in Wichita. They used Walt Anderson's cooking style and sold the hamburgers for 5 cents each. The hamburgers were small and went down so easy that they would later be called sliders. The restaurant was so successful that it expanded to a second location in El Dorado and then beyond, even in Topeka. In 1923, they expanded to Omaha. Before 1930, White Castle had branched into 12 major cities in the Midwest, as well as New York and New Jersey. Of course, at that time, there was no such thing as a fast food chain. The company had to establish centralized bakeries, meat supply plants, warehouses to supply itself. The company's business design of multiple locations and standardized products and menus make White Castle credited for the first fast food hamburger chain in the world. In 1933, the company made a transition in ownership. Billy Ingram bought out Walt Anderson's interest. Ingram then moved the company's headquarters to Columbus, Ohio, so as to be more centrally located near the new restaurants that were being built in the east. White Castle continued to expand and innovate. It was the first fast food chain to reach the landmark of 1 billion hamburgers sold, which it did in 1961. Eventually, however, other fast food chains would outgrow White Castle. Today, White Castle has more than 400 restaurants, although none of those are in Kansas. Billy Ingram's descendants still control the company. It all began with a small-town short-order cook named Walt Anderson. He was born in the rural community of St. Mary's, Kansas. Population 2,221. Tarwater Farm and Home has been family-owned and operated since its beginning in 1978. What you need for farm and agriculture, lawn and garden, clothing and footwear, and so much more. You'll be surprised at what you'll find in this huge store. They have what you need and lots of it. So come take a look. You'll discover that customer service is first and foremost. Always has been with the Tarwaters. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard. This segment brought to you by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Find out more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Years ago, we had a bad fire here at the ranch when our daughter was little. We lost an entire machine shed, and it was a traumatic experience for her. I wrote this poem about that day. It's titled, "You Have to Cowboy Up." "Daddy, what do we do?" my little girl said as we stared at the burning remains of our shed. The machine shed on our ranch had just gone up in flames with the tractors and trailers and wagons it contained. I looked at my daughter as she cradled her scared pup and said, "At times like these, you have to cowboy up. You have to be strong. You have to be tough. You can't let hard times get you down facing this stuff. When you get bucked off, pick yourself up off the ground and get back on that horse to try another round. And if life gives you lemons, you just can't be afraid. Turn a negative into a positive and make some lemonade." Yes, we've lost our old machine shed, but that opens up some space. We'll be able to rebuild something better in its place. "But Daddy," my daughter said with tear-filled eyes, "think of all the work you did on those things inside." "Yes," I said as I thought of what we faced. "It is a loss, and there are things that just can't be replaced. But things are still just things. They're not the people that we love. We still have many blessings, thanks to the good Lord up above." So I held my daughter close as I drained my coffee cup and said, "Be brave, my little one. You have to cowboy up." Happy trails.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from Doc Talk. Have you asked yourself, how can I help provide relief to wildfire victims? Well, you can go to the Ashland Community Foundation, or you can go to the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation and make monetary gifts. Another way, you can buy this beautiful print. that was painted by Dr. Eva Gardner of the Gardner Angus Ranch of Ashland and Clark County area before the fire. This painting will be sold through the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation, and all proceeds will be provided to victims of the wildfire.
Buffalo Bill Cody earned his legendary title in Oakley. Bring the family and come celebrate Oakley's pioneering history and unique geography at two sites, the Buffalo Bill Cultural Center and the Fick Fossil Museum. Cody's statue marks his achievements and welcomes visitors to the Cultural Center. The Fick Fossil Museum houses world-class fossils and artifacts. You'll find Oakley at the hub of U.S. Highways 83 and 40 and I-70. Stop for the legend. Stay for the day. Discover Oakley. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter. Here we are again. It's Wednesday. This is Around Kansas. I'm Frank.
I'm
She's
still there.
Deb. Yeah, she still is.
So a couple of weeks ago, I celebrated my birthday, as everybody in the world knows. And so this is what I got to do for my birthday. We went and checked out a crash site, a plane crash site. And my daughter called me from Israel, and she said, "So, Mom, enjoy visiting your crash site." Said no one ever, but that's what you do for fun. But Von Rothenberger, our very good friend, took Dr. Jake and me out in rural, and I do mean rural, Osborne County, and we walked this crash site, World War II crash site. And I would love to do a bunch of segments or even a book on this someday. Frank, in World War II, we have dozens of crash sites all over the state of Kansas because they were training pilots so fast. This one was not a training mission. This one was a little different. But the story, if you remember, I did a story. I went back to Patrick County, where I grew up, Patrick County, Virginia, and did a story on the plane crash that killed servicemen, including a guy from Elmdale, Kansas. And this was chillingly similar. Had these guys been another 50 feet higher, they would have all lived. They would have never crashed. And it's just, oh my God, it was just an incredible day. It was a wonderful day of exploring, but remembering these guys, it just breaks your heart, the story. But God bless Von Rothenberger for sharing it with us and with all of you.
On a dirt road north of Waldo, just miles from the ghost town of Covert, a pastor holds a powerful story of World War II. Von Rothenberger grew up nearby, but this story had been kept quiet. Residents had, in fact, been ordered to keep the news quiet, or the enemy would know our troop movements. As the details leaked out, Von became a man with a mission to ensure these lives were not forgotten. Now, decades later, Von shares the story. On September 22, 1943, a B-24 crashed into a hillside in southern Osborne County. It was 10:30 p.m. The plane had become separated from its squadron in a thunderstorm, and the young crew, unfamiliar with the terrain, was trying to follow the maps, which apparently stopped at the county lines. They crossed the line from Russell County to Osborne County, unaware that the ground was rising. Kansas is, they likely assumed, flat. They slammed into the hillside at 250 miles per hour. If they had pulled up 50 feet, they would have cleared the hill. Neighbors heard the crash. They saw the fire. The whole hillside caught fire. The bomber was part of the 20th Bomber Command, 34th Bomb Group, 391st Squadron. It was on a training flight from their airfield at Blythe, California to San Antonio, Texas, via Topeka, Kansas. All 11 men on board were killed. Flight instructor pilot Donald Kidder, First Lieutenant LaRue Lee, Second Lieutenant Joseph Beeves, Second Lieutenant Cletus Christopher, Second Lieutenant Howard Fisher, Second Lieutenant Arthur Lamker, Flight Officer Singleton Waldrop, Sergeant Marlon Chamberlain, Sergeant Howard Eicher, Sergeant Bobby Sanford, and Sergeant Chester Urbanowitz. In 2004, a monument was dedicated at the site, and dozens of relatives were there to remember their loved ones and find some closure. Bond continues the research, looking for family members and other pieces of the puzzle that connect these men to one another and Kansas.
We're done, Frank.
Oh. Well, we have to go again. I'm Frank.
I'm still Deb.
And we'll see you somewhere
Around Kansas.
Welcome to Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream.